On today's episode of Hickey's Ridge Homestead, Jonathan chases some cows, you finally get to meet Elise, and Denny does some laps around our fences. So strap in, hit the like button, and thanks for joining us.
Have a prop.
Oh, hello!
No.
No? No. She didn't like that. She thought I was a bit cringy the first video. Anyway,
Hello,
if you haven't,
Gigi.
you've met me, if you've watched any of our other videos, but you haven't met Elise yet. This is my beautiful wife. The good looking one. She passes on all the good genetics to our kids. Anyway, that's this is us. This is Hickey's Ridge Homestead. Well, not all of it. I wish we could say that as far as the eye can see, wherever the light touches was ours, but not quite. We've got this little patch here on this side of the river, and it's a beautiful spot. And we're just out here trying to grow some food, make some memories with our family.
Escape the system.
Escape
run
the
from
system?
the government.
No, if the government's watching, we're not running from you. I
We
promise.
love you.
No, we're really blessed. We had the opportunity to move here
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, get out of the city, and
And why? Why is that?
why is that? The hectic lifestyle. I always thought I was a city kid until I had kids.
Yeah.
Once I had kids, I realized that everything being so fast paced, you kind of miss out on
It's
what's
too
going on.
busy. But
Too
also,
busy.
I always wanted to live in the country on a farm. And when I met you, you were like, oh, I can't live in a small little town or away from a city. And I was like, oh, don't know if I can do this. But
Here we
stuck
are.
it out and then somehow convinced you to move up here. So
Yeah.
I wanted to get out of Sydney just after COVID, and then we decided to stay till you'd finished your degree,
Yeah.
and then
Hello,
we
Denny.
can just start
Hey.
afresh. So my mum actually came to us, what was it, 2023?
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, and was like, do you want to look for somewhere together? Because rent was really expensive. We needed a bigger place.
A growing family.
She wanted to sell, and at first we were like, nah, we're okay.
It's hard doing
We
things
can
with
we can
family.
do.
We've done that before.
Yeah, but also we were happy in our little 2-bedroom granny flat. It was serving us what we needed. But then I think, I don't know, the world just got a bit more full on. And we thought, you know what, yeah, I grew up in Sydney, the Hawkesbury, lived there for 30 years, 29 years. And I said, stop it, let's go, let's find somewhere else. Let's see
Start
what
fresh.
else the world has to offer, aka Australia. And then when we came here, my mum just,
Fell in love with the
she got a
place.
bit offended really, because she was like, why are you showing me this beautiful property that I can't afford? Well, we couldn't do this without her.
No.
And she wouldn't do this by herself. When our kids grow up and are adults, we are going to want to support them
Yeah.
and give them the best start. And if they have children, why wouldn't I want to be around them and see them
Yeah.
as much as I could? We have so much to learn from the previous generation and even the previous generation before them. And they can learn things from us, but also it's just, I think it's the way that it's meant to be.
When we work in multiple generations, you bring the wisdom and the wealth acquired in previous generations along, and you bring new strength and youth from the next generation along to be able to keep pushing the family forward in a way that profits everyone and is able to build a new thing
But
and
it's also
set up
just,
the next generation
you're not
again.
lonely.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want my mum to be living by herself,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, we get to live this lifestyle together,
We all
have
agreed,
different strengths.
Yeah, it is.
and that's what we focus on. So
And a free babysitting.
we've had a couple of rough weeks here at Hickey's Ridge.
Months.
Well, a couple of rough
6
months.
months,
Rough 6 months,
probably.
really, but the last few weeks have kind of been the culmination of it all. We lost our ram Ralph and our lamb Minnie, which we think was to parasites.
Parasite.
Most likely barber's pole, which is really prevalent in our area.
And
will
it's
not
hard
keep
to
up very
save
quick.
them even if you do drench them.
We put out a video a couple of weeks ago talking about our natural treatment methods, which were working pretty well.
Well, we hadn't
Seemed like
used anything on them for over a year.
Yeah, Ralph we hadn't had quite that long, but he'd been fine as well
He
for the
hadn't
most
been
part.
drenched.
We just had a whole bunch of rain, which tends to bring the worms out of the soil, and we've been told that sheep struggle up this way for that reason, that and wild dogs, but we want to work on them anyway. So we've been trying some natural treatment methods, apple cider vinegar, comfrey, diatomaceous earth, and they've worked really well for CC, the U.
Oregano oil as well.
Oregano oil, which is an antibiotic. But yeah, unfortunately, despite our best efforts, we lost Ralph and we lost the lamb. It's hard to know with the lamb.
They don't show signs, they just die.
Yeah, Ralph got a bit weaker over a couple of days while we were trying to treat him. We are not drenching and we're not using chemicals to try and deal with these things because we want to build up a flock that's resistant to parasites naturally. And part of that method, although it's sad, is that if animals are not parasite resistant and they can't deal with the natural methods, then we might lose them when there's a bad time of parasites. So it's not what we want, but long term, our goal is to build a parasite resistant flock of sheep.
Not just the animals though, same with our fruit trees and food forests. We don't use chemicals.
Yeah.
We're using compost basically to build the natural immunity of the plant. And so this place had been treated with chemicals. So some of our fruit trees we've noticed have struggled the first year or so. But since planting comfrey underneath them and using compost and compost extract, they are coming back and they will be better off for it. So it's the same with animals. You use chemicals to, or humans as well. Use chemicals to boost an immunity and your body relies on the chemicals and you lose the natural immunity.
Yeah. So our goal is really to build a property that is fertile without the use of chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers even. We want to use really natural methods to fertilize, hence why we're doing this rotational grazing. So we can get as much poo and fertilizer, natural fertilizers into the soil. But our plan is to build up the soil so that the soil can support the plants that need to support the animals, that need to support every part of life on this homestead. So to do that does mean that maybe we take some losses or it's a bit more difficult to start with. But we're prepared to cop some of that in the long-term goal of reaching a really fertile, generational farm. And so, yeah, losing our sheep has been really tough. Ralph was a great ram, really relaxed. He only rammed me a couple of times when I wasn't watching, and he was usually protecting the girls from me trying to check their feet or something. He did father a couple of lambs. Unfortunately, we lost one in childbirth earlier at the end of last year.
I didn't like him, I didn't want him. I didn't want to be alone at home with a ram in case he got out, because the sheep had been pushing through the fence and knocking it down. But that was probably because they wanted a little cuddle from the ram. So once he was in there with them, they didn't escape. So that wasn't so bad. But I still never really got in with the sheep for the first few months anyway. Then when I got used to him and knew he only rammed Jonathan, then I felt safer going in with him. So he was okay in the end. Don't get too attached. That's the lesson.
Moving forward, we were really questioning whether we should do sheep anymore, just because
anytime something fails, you go, should we do this?
But we do want to live this lifestyle.
Yeah,
Or live this.
you have to think forward and into the future.
Yeah.
And our goal was to raise pest-resistant animals, so
Yeah.
it takes time. It's not going to be, unless you buy them and they're already adapted, they've already been bred to
Which
be
might
resistant.
be our next step, is looking to buying a better quality ram.
Well, it's more expensive that way, but
Yeah.
if it means they don't just die, it's worth it.
So, yeah, unfortunately, we've lost 3 sheep this year, 1 in birth, 1 lamb, and then the other lamb was about 2 months old, Minnie, and Ralph. So it's kind of a whole reset for our flock. These ewes seem to be handling really well.
Yeah,
Cece's coming back well.
Baby she didn't have any of the signs.
Yeah.
And Dee Dee didn't either. And she's pregnant, so you'd think she'd be more, well, we think she's pregnant.
We hope she's pregnant. Well, that's the other
Because
thing with Ralph. We
he
might
may
have a couple more lambs.
Well, he may have already
Away
gotten
from him.
Cece and Dee Dee pregnant again, hopefully. And if one of them have a ram, we would keep it to breed him to be pest resistant from the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Well, it really depends on their genetics, I think. That plays a big part. You can't help some of it.
yeah,
I thought when we got Dorpers that they were somewhat pest resistant, but it seems like there's more pest resistant breeds. We're just not allowed to have them in Australia because the Australian government wants us dependent on all the manufacturers of the sheep drugs. No, I don't know. I'm sure they think they're doing the right thing. And I'm just a beginner farmer who doesn't know much. But it doesn't make sense that there's all these breeds that are a bit more resistant and require less input that we're not allowed to have for some reason. Anyway.
unfortunately, it hasn't just been sheep that have been dying.
No.
It started, I think, with some chicks dying, and then we lost our cat from a tick bite.
You know, the cat was horrible.
10-year-old.
We do
Presley.
treat our dogs and cats usually for ticks and worms, but unfortunately
We just lost track. I think because all the chicks were hatching.
Yeah,
And
really bad season for ticks
well,
this year
the
too.
rain again. Once again, the flipping rain.
So people who are drenching sheep, you get in this cycle, and people are often drenching every month through the wet months, which is an expensive thing to do, and isn't good for the sheep and isn't good for your soil, because all it does is kill all the good, well, the parasites which are needed for the soil to help it grow. If in the comments you actually have any practical ways of treating animals for different ailments, we'd love to hear about them. So we're still learning some of this stuff, and there's plenty of information online about how to treat, but you can always use more, and we'd
But
always like to
just
try
because
different.
you disagree doesn't mean we're wrong. There's going to be lots of reasons for us to quit,
Yeah.
but we're not the first people to experience hard times and loss through farming.
Mm.
If this is the lifestyle we want, we have to learn things, and that's hard sometimes.
Yeah, learning's never easy.
But it'll be worth it if our children don't have to start from square one.
It's not easy, but it's rewarding at times. Yeah, we're just trying to do our best. The sheep have been the difficult part of that the last couple of weeks. But we will look into sourcing a new ram.
It's pushed us to learn more,
Yeah.
and to be more on top of things and more proactive.
Yeah.
And that's good. Can't dwell on all the negative things and hard things that happen, because then you don't want to try. Then you don't want to keep going, because it is hard.
Fences on!
We're learning a lot. And sometimes it sucks.
Yeah.
But then you have to look at the whole picture and go, it is worth it in the end. Because we're living generationally, we have our eyes on the future. So whatever we can learn and have set up for our children, so they can just walk in and go, we know how to grow carrots.
Yeah.
And that's great.
I know. I didn't grow up knowing how to grow carrots. Although,
Brody's milked a cow. How many 5-year-olds can say they've milked a cow
not these days.
and can drink raw milk that's full of nutrients?
Raw milk's illegal.
We pasteurize on them.
We'll see you in the next video. And don't forget to turn the fence on.